The morning mist hung low over the rooftops of Bath as we packed the last of the boxes into the car. My mum, Harriet Alden, stood at the front door, giving our old house one final glance. She did not cry. She never cried. Not since Dad died 2 years ago. "Come on, Sophie," she called, her voice flat. "We've a long drive ahead." I hesitated before stepping into the car. Our new home was in Wexcombe, a village I had never heard of until 2 weeks ago. Mum said it would be a fresh start, a quiet place where both of us could breathe again. I wasn't so sure. The drive took hours. Endless roads winding through thick forests, with barely another car in sight. When we finally arrived, the village looked like something out of a dusty postcard: cobblestone lanes, crooked chimneys, and cottages with ivy crawling up the walls. It was almost too quiet. Our new house stood at the edge of the woods. It was old, with warped windows and creaky steps, but Mum insisted it had character. "It's perfect," she said, unlocking the front door with a rusty key. I followed her inside, clutching my backpack like it might protect me. The house smelled of damp books and lavender. Oddly specific, I thought, as if someone had just been here. But Mum said the house had been empty for years. That first night, I could not sleep. The wind scraped tree branches against my window, and every floorboard seemed to groan under invisible footsteps. I got up to use the loo and passed Mum's room. Her door was open just a crack. She was sitting at the vanity, brushing her hair slowly in the dark. No lamp. No music. Just brushing. And for a second, just a blink, I swore her reflection was not moving with her. I froze. But when I blinked again, the reflection was back to normal. My breath caught in my throat. The next morning, Mum made porridge. She smiled as if nothing was wrong, but when she offered me a bowl, she called me Emily. "My name's Sophie," I said, confused. She paused. "Of course it is." Silly me. That was the first moment I knew something was off. But I kept it to myself. I was probably just tired. Probably imagining things. Probably. That afternoon, while unpacking boxes, I found my old Polaroid camera. It had been missing for months. I opened the compartment and gasped. There were photos inside. Photos I never took. One showed the woods behind the house, taken at night. Another showed Mum, standing with a woman in a red coat. And the last one showed 2 women who looked exactly like Mum, standing inches apart, both smiling at the camera. I dropped the camera. That was not just strange. That was impossible. And I had the proof. I could not stop staring at the photo. 2 identical women. One with a calm smile, the other with something sharper, more knowing. I turned the photo over. Nothing written. No date. Just the faint yellowing of time. When I showed Mum the picture at breakfast, her eyes barely flickered. "Where did you find that?" she asked, reaching for the photo too quickly. "In my old camera," I replied, pulling it back before she could grab it. She smiled, too wide. "Must be some trick of the light. Or double exposure. Those cameras do that sometimes." "No, they don't," I muttered. She changed the subject right after that, asking about school. But she never asked which box I found the camera in. Never asked why I suddenly had it after months. It was like she already knew. That day, I went for a walk around Wexcombe. I needed air. I needed space. The village was quiet, too quiet for a Saturday. The shop was closed. The cafe was dark. Even the church had its doors shut. It felt like everyone was inside, watching. I found the woods behind the house again and followed the trail deeper this time. I do not know why, something pulled me in. A memory, maybe. Or instinct. That is when I saw her. The woman in the red coat. She stood in the trees, not 10 feet away, facing me directly. She had the same hair as Mum, same posture, but her eyes were sharp and unblinking. She did not move. I froze. "Hello," I said. She tilted her head slightly. Then, without a word, she turned and disappeared between the trees. I chased after her, but within seconds she was gone. I stood alone in the stillness of the forest, heart thudding like a drum. My hands shook. Back home, I told Mum what I saw. She laughed. "You saw a fox," she said, not even looking up from her book. "A fox in a red coat." She put the book down. "You've always had an overactive imagination, Sophie. Honestly, it's starting to worry me." Her tone was not caring. It was cold. That night, I crept into her room while she was asleep. I had to know. I opened the bottom drawer of her wardrobe and found the red coat. Folded neatly. Clean. With something heavy in the pocket. I reached in and pulled it out, a silver necklace with the letter E engraved in cursive. I froze. My name does not start with E. But Emily's did. The name she called me by mistake. The name that keeps slipping from her lips. And the name I found written in the corner of one of the old photos. The next day, I waited for Mum, no, her, to leave the house. She said she was going into town to find a post office. I watched from the upstairs window as she walked down the lane, the hood of her coat pulled tight against the wind. As soon as she was out of sight, I searched the house. Not randomly. With purpose. I started in the attic. The door creaked as I pulled it down. The wooden ladder groaned beneath my weight. It was dark up there, dusty, cold. The kind of quiet that made your ears ring. Boxes. Crates. Old furniture draped in sheets. And in the corner, an old trunk with brass clasps. It was locked. But the lid wobbled slightly, and with enough force, it snapped open. Inside were clothes. Children's clothes. Little dresses and jumpers that looked untouched for years. A pair of small red shoes. And a book. A diary. The front cover read, Emily Alden. 2009. I opened it with trembling fingers. Mum keeps forgetting my favorite cereal. She always buys the wrong one now. She calls me Sophie sometimes, but she says it's just a joke. I flipped forward. Today I saw a woman in the woods who looked just like Mum. I tried to tell her, but she said I was lying. She said I shouldn't speak of things that aren't real. Page after page, Emily's handwriting shifted from neat and cheerful to frantic, messy, angry. She wrote about dreams that felt like memories, about shadows that spoke in her mother's voice, about someone replacing her. And then, the last entry. If anything happens to me, I want people to know I didn't imagine this. I know what I saw. She isn't my mum. I shut the book, heart pounding. The floor creaked downstairs. I froze. She was home. I stuffed the diary into my hoodie and quickly climbed down, pulling the attic door shut just as her footsteps reached the hallway. She looked up at me from the bottom of the stairs. I forgot my purse, she said flatly. Were you in the attic? No, I lied. She narrowed her eyes. Her gaze flicked to my chest, where the lump of the diary pressed against my jumper. I've asked you before, Sophie, she said. Don't go snooping where you don't belong. Her tone wasn't scolding. It was threatening. That night, I waited until I was sure she was asleep before I pulled the diary out again. I flipped to the middle and found something wedged between the pages, an old photograph. It showed Emily. I knew it was her now. She looked exactly like me, but her smile was different. Sadder. Like she already knew what was coming. Behind her in the photo, standing in the doorway, was Mum. But not the woman I lived with now. A different version of her. Younger. Wilder eyes. Same face. But the expression she wore in that photo chilled my bones. And in the corner, written in red pen, were 5 words. She comes when you forget. The message haunted me. She comes when you forget. I barely slept. I kept the diary under my pillow, and every hour or so, I'd switch on the torch from my phone and reread those 5 words. The way they were written, scrawled like a warning, not a note, made my skin crawl. The next morning, I found her humming in the kitchen. Cheerful. Stirring porridge like it was any other day. Sleep well? She asked. Not really. She smiled, as if expecting that answer. While she was distracted at the stove, I studied her closely. Her hands were moving, but her eyes, they were fixed on the reflection in the kettle. Watching me without looking at me. I glanced at the necklace around her neck. It was not hers. It was Emily's. The silver E glinted in the morning light. I'm going for a walk, I said, backing away. She did not argue. She never argued. She just smiled and said, be back before it gets dark. Wexcombe isn't kind to those who lose their way. There was something chilling about the way she said it. Like she had said it before. Too many times. I went straight to the church. I had seen it closed before, but this time I pushed the heavy door open. Dust danced in the shafts of light pouring through stained glass. An old man sat in the back pew, head bowed. Hello, I said gently. He looked up, eyes clouded, voice gravelly. You're one of the Alden girls, aren't you? I hesitated. Yes. Sophie. His brow furrowed. No. Emily. I shook my head. No, I'm not Emily. I found her diary. His lips pressed into a thin line. Then, slowly, he nodded. I remember her. Bright child. Curious. But she was always changing. Changing. She used to come here a lot. Told me strange things. Said her mum wasn't her mum anymore. Said the woods whispered her name at night. I felt goosebumps rise on my arms. What happened to her? He sighed. She vanished. Years ago now. Folks said she ran away. Some think she died. But I never believed either. Then what do you believe? He looked me dead in the eye. I believe she forgot. Those words sent a chill right through me. I left the church quickly, the diary pressed against my chest. That afternoon, while Mum was in the bath, I snuck back into the attic. I had to find more answers. Proof. In a stack of boxes behind the trunk, I found a folder, damp and discolored. Inside were papers. Birth certificates. Medical reports. Photos. 2 birth certificates. One for Emily Alden. One for Sophie Alden. Same date of birth. Same hospital. Same mother. And both registered to this address. My heart hammered. 2 girls. But only one me. Then I heard it, soft footsteps on the ladder. The attic door creaked open. I told you, her voice hissed up from the dark. Some things are better left forgotten. I froze at the top of the attic steps. The folder in my hand. My breath caught in my throat. Her shadow loomed in the square of light below as she climbed one step, then another. I backed away into the shadows. You're not supposed to be up here, she said, her voice no longer soft or motherly, but hollow. Empty. I know about Emily, I whispered. I know you're not my mum. A pause. Then a chuckle. It was the kind of laugh that made your stomach twist. It didn't belong in this house, or in her mouth. Oh, Sophie, or Emily, she said, climbing higher. You never did know who you were. I ran. Down the other side of the attic, past the trunks and broken furniture, through the door into the crawl space above the spare room. Dust clogged my nose and throat, but I didn't stop until I reached the tiny square window at the end. Locked. Behind me, I heard her footsteps on the floorboards. Do you remember the bluebell field? She called out. That's where I first found her, all alone. I said nothing. My heart pounded so loudly I thought it might shake the walls. I gave her a choice, she said. Forget, or remember and suffer. I turned and saw her silhouette at the end of the attic, her face hidden in shadow. She chose to forget. You always do. I'm not her, I said firmly. I'm not Emily. She stepped forward into the light. Her face was my mum's. Exactly. But her eyes were darker. Older. Like they had lived hundreds of lives. But I am, she whispered. I backed against the wall. My hands reached blindly for something, anything. I found a broken broom handle and gripped it tight. You won't trick me, I said. I don't need to. You'll come back to me in the end. They all do. Once the forgetting begins, there's no stopping it. That was when I realized what the diary meant. She comes when you forget. It wasn't a warning. It was a timeline. I had to remember everything. Every detail. Every memory that proved I was me. If I lost even one, she would take the rest. I charged past her before she could react, shoving her aside and bolting down the attic ladder. I heard her laugh follow me down the stairs, echoing through the narrow hallways of the house. I ran to my room, slammed the door, and locked it. Then I pulled out a notebook from my drawer. And I wrote. My full name. My birthday. My school. My favorite songs. Every friend I'd ever had. My teachers. The street I grew up on. My dad's face. Tears blurred the ink, but I didn't stop. Because if I did, if I let even one memory slip, I knew she would come. And I would disappear. Just like Emily. Just like the others. Morning light crept through the curtains, but the house felt colder than ever. I had not slept. I couldn't. Not after what I saw in the attic. Not after what she said. Every time I closed my eyes, I pictured her face, my mother's face, but not a mask. A copy. And somewhere, beneath all of it, a monster waiting for me to forget. I sat by the window, notebook clutched to my chest. The pages now held my entire life, everything I could recall. But even so, I felt the edges of my mind softening, slipping. I had to get out. I crept downstairs. The hallway was still and silent, as if the house were holding its breath. Her room was closed. No sound. I tiptoed past and headed for the front door. I nearly made it. Sophie. Her voice drifted from behind me, light and calm. I made tea. I turned slowly. She stood in the kitchen doorway, holding 2 cups. The steam rising from one of them looked oddly dark, almost grey. I'm not thirsty, I said. Nonsense, she replied. You've been through so much. Come and sit. Let's talk. She moved into the room. No longer creeping. Confident. Like she knew I wouldn't run. I sat at the table, but I didn't touch the cup. She placed the other one down and stared at me. Tell me, she said. What's the first thing you remember? My mouth went dry. This was it. The test. I gripped the notebook under the table and recited slowly, carefully. My name is Sophie Alden. I was born at Bath General Hospital. My dad's name was Malcolm. He gave me a stuffed rabbit named Clover on my 5th birthday. I lost it once in the park and cried for hours. She smiled faintly. Go on. I had a friend called Lila in year 4 who used to steal crayons from the art room. I don't like porridge unless it has brown sugar. I chipped my tooth on a swing when I was 6. Her face remained expressionless. Then she leaned forward. What about your mum? My breath caught. That was the question. The crack in the ice. I remember her singing while brushing my hair. She always wore the same perfume. Gardenia. I remember her. No, she said sharply. Tell me what she looked like. I froze. Because I couldn't. Not truly. Her face, my real mum's face, was slipping from me like a dream I couldn't hold on to. Every time I tried to picture her eyes, her laugh, her smile, the image of the woman across from me took its place. She saw it in my eyes. You're forgetting, she said softly. No, I whispered. No, I'm not. But I was. I clutched the notebook tighter and flipped to a blank page, scribbling. Mum had a mole on her left cheek. She hated thunderstorms. She wore red lipstick only at Christmas. Anything. Anything to hold on to her. The woman, sighed. You've made it far, Sophie. But you'll slip, just like Emily. Like they all did. She reached into her pocket and pulled out something I recognized instantly. Clover. My old stuffed rabbit. The one I lost. I've kept it safe for you, she said. I stood up, heart pounding. That's not yours. She placed it on the table. You can take it. But you know the price. I didn't move. Because I did know. If I took it, if I accepted even one comfort from her hands, the last thread tying me to who I really was would snap. And she would become my mum. Forever. The stuffed rabbit lay between us like a loaded trap. I didn't dare touch it. She smiled, patient, assured. You'll understand soon, she said. You were never meant to remember her. Not fully. I took a step back, eyes fixed on her. The edges of her voice were starting to fray. It wasn't trembling, it was too perfect, too smooth. Like it had been rehearsed again and again. Who are you? I asked. She blinked, as if the question genuinely surprised her. I'm your mother, Sophie. I've always been. No, I snapped. You're not. You knew where Clover was. You found it, didn't you? Where he buried it. She stilled. And you know what else I found? I stepped forward now, pressing my words like a blade. Letters. Hidden in the lining of the toy. My real mum's handwriting. She knew you were coming. A flicker of something crossed her face, just a second, but I saw it. Not fear. Not guilt. Hatred. You shouldn't have gone into the attic, she said quietly. You shouldn't have lied to me. The woman straightened, her false warmth gone. She fought. So hard. But in the end, they all do the same thing. They forget. That's the gift I bring. I felt sick. What are you? I'm the one who comes when memory breaks. When pain is too sharp to bear. I offer peace. And in return, I live through you. It's always been fair. No, it's theft, I whispered. You wear people like skins. I restore order. You erase the truth. She stood there, motionless, the truth laid bare between us. I know your name now, I said, pulling the notebook from my jumper. I opened to the final page, the one I hadn't shown her. There, scribbled over and over, was the name I'd seen in the attic on a scrap of torn paper tucked inside a photo frame. Thessaly. That was her name. Not Mum. Not anything close. She flinched. I wrote it down, I continued. I carved it into my memory. Every time you touched something, I repeated it. Thessaly. 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 The lights in the kitchen flickered. Her face twitched. "You think that will protect you?" she hissed. "It already has." She lunged. But I was faster. I grabbed Clover, not to keep it, but to throw it into the fireplace. The fire burst alive, swallowing the toy whole. "No!" she screamed. Flames danced in her eyes, and the air filled with the thick scent of burning cloth. She shrieked, a sound that didn't belong in this world, and her image wavered, glitching like a failing signal. And then I saw her. The real her. Not a woman. A thing. Tall, wrong, with skin that shimmered like oil, black eyes that had no end, and hands far too long. She let out a final, broken sound and staggered back, retreating into the hallway. But I wasn't scared. Not anymore. I followed her, each step sure. "You made one mistake," I said. "You taught me how to fight. You made me remember." She reached the front door, clawed it open, and vanished into the morning fog beyond. Gone. But not defeated. Because monsters like her never truly die. They wait. For cracks. For weakness. For a child who forgets. And I knew, one day, she might return. The fog outside lingered for days, thick like breath held too long. After that morning, the house grew silent in a different way. Not empty, no, not anymore, but alert. As if the walls themselves were waiting, listening, remembering with me. I barely slept. Instead, I read. I pieced together my mother's notes, the letters, the old photographs. I mapped names, places, dates. Some pages were torn. Some were half burned. But the more I uncovered, the more the truth held together, like threads finally pulling tight. She had warned me. In her last letter, scribbled in a jagged hand, she wrote, "If they take me, don't trust the face that replaces mine. They will speak gently. They will smell like the past. But they are not it. They are the whole. The whole. A thing that pretends to be love, but leaves you hollow." I took the notebook, those burned fragments, and hid them where no one would think to look, beneath the floorboards in the pantry, under the cracked tile that used to wobble when I was little. Every instinct screamed to run. But where would I go? I was the only one who remembered now. She, Thessaly, had taken others. That much was clear. Names appeared again and again in the margins of Mum's notes. Missing women. Children who changed overnight. Husbands who smiled with eyes too still. It wasn't random. It was a pattern. A feeding. She moved between families, wore memories like clothes, erased the ones who knew too much. And now she had failed. Because I remembered. I didn't speak of it. Not to neighbors. Not to teachers. I smiled. I nodded. I answered questions about school and birthdays. And when I was alone, I waited. Weeks passed. Then one morning, as I sat on the cold kitchen floor, I heard it. A creak. Not the usual house creak. Not the kind of old wood settling in its bones. A footstep. Deliberate. I stood slowly, heart thudding in my ears. My fingers curled around the kitchen knife, still wet from washing. Another step. Then a voice, soft, almost familiar. "Sophie?" I turned. And saw her. Not Thessaly. My mother. Not a ghost. Not a trick. Her face was pale, eyes wide, bruises blooming like ink beneath her skin. She looked fragile, but real. Entirely real. "Mum." I breathed. She nodded, tears spilling before words. I got out. I broke through. We stared at each other, the silence louder than anything. "She's still out there," she whispered. "I know," I said. And we held each other on the kitchen floor, trembling, both of us scarred but alive. That night, I added one last page to the notebook. She was right. They take your shape. But they can't hold your soul forever. If you remember, you can fight. And if you fight, you can win. I hid the notebook again, but not too well. Because one day, someone else might need it. And next time, they won't have to start from scratch. They'll have the truth.